Good afternoon. How are you? Nice to see you. My name is Keith Gooden. I'm the co-presenter of the Motorhome Map podcast with the man that you're about to see, Matt Sims. And it is a very long story about Matt, and he very nearly didn't make it here. I don't know whether many of you are aware. If you listen to the podcast, you will be. He was perfectly fine and dandy and doing what he always does. Some of it legal, some of it illegal. You know what I mean? A bit dodgy. And all of a sudden, I get this telephone call to say Matt's been rushed to hospital. And what happened was he felt a bit dicky on a Saturday morning, did go to the hospital. They didn't call an ambulance. The story is that Mrs. Motorhome Matt drove him into Bristol Infirmary with the windows down, shouting "Nina, Nina." She doesn't deny it. And he got into hospital, and they put him into one of those big scanners and found out that he was a few days from death. Yeah. So they treated him. He's on lots of pills. And thankfully, he's still here. So you're very lucky at 3:30 on this Saturday afternoon to see him, because it could have been a completely different story. So I don't want to make too many jokes about his heart, God bless him, but in the same vein, get it? He's taken up a hobby, archery. Yeah. What he does do, though, is he talks very, very well about travelling across Europe. And that is what he is going to do today. As you can see here, he has his case full of props. Let me out. Let me out. And he is going to entertain you for the next 55 minutes or so, or as long as he can before his heart gives out, in which case I shall rush to the stage, shout, "Clear!" And, well, it's a news story, isn't it? We'll be publishing a podcast about it next week. So, here he is, the man himself, Motorhome Matt Sims.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you. It's like working with your dad. Thanks, buddy. You can have a little lie down now yourself. So Keith's quite right. I had unstable angina and 2 stents fitted in an emergency procedure. I had an angiogram. Has anyone here had stents? Are you in the stent club with me? Yes. I didn't even know there was a thing until very recently, when people came up to me and said, "Welcome to the stent club, Matt." So I'm okay if I jump up and down. I rattle, because I am, as Keith says, taking about 11 tablets a day. And I don't generate adrenaline, which is something I discovered in the Harrogate show when I gave this talk. And I went bright red and was really, really tired when I came off stage. And some of the medication I take means I don't generate adrenaline, which you generate when you stand in front of a room like this. And it's kind of, I went on stage and thought, well, I'm delighted to be here. This was literally 3 weeks after the procedure. I thought, oh, the adrenaline will kick in, I'll be fine. And it didn't, and it won't today. So if I have to take a little stop and just take a breath and a bit of water, I'm sure you'll forgive me and work with me. I hopefully don't fall over and don't need Keith to shout, "Clear!" But if I do, then the doors are there. Just leave quietly, it'll be fine. Anyway, so today we're talking about going to Europe. Hands up those of you here who have taken a motorhome to Europe in the past. Why are you in the room? Hands up those of you here who have taken a motorhome to Europe since Brexit. Not so many. Okay, anyone here going to Europe or planning to in the future? Excellent. That is why you're here. So there's been some changes. You don't need to take notes, because this is really quick. Right? This is far less intelligent than Kat's talk, who I'm told is in the room to take notes so she can improve her talk, because this one's much better. And she's got a laptop out. Are you actually making notes on my talk? Oh, charming. Thanks, Kat. So Kat does a really good talk on going to Europe. This one is about all the stuff, so I brought a load of props with me. You don't need to make notes, because there are a little pile of flyers here. We've actually come with not very many, but this URL will take you there, or you can scan this QR code. Of course, we all know what a QR code is now, don't we? I'll leave these on the table. Come and grab one at the end. And you can download this talk as a video and as a PDF ebook checklist, so you can tick all the stuff off. Now, there is an error in the video because I recorded it about an 18-month period ago, and things have changed since we did that. So forgive me when you're watching the video, because there's a couple of errors in it, but you'll discover those in a sec. So I've had the privilege of sending hundreds of people off on European motorhome adventures. I've been on several myself, too many to mention. I own a motorhome hire business, which is why I've sent thousands probably off to Europe, and we're doing it again this year. And so we get our own fleet ready and them, and help talk them through it. So there are three things we're going to do today. The first is get you and your paperwork ready. We're going to get your motorhome and its paperwork ready, and then we're going to get all the stuff together that you need to take, and the stuff I'm going to show you that might be worth considering taking. So here we go. The first one is obvious, your passport. This is my old passport. Has anyone got a new blue one? Yeah, okay. The key thing with your passport is the start date. It must be less than 9 years and 9 months old when you want to return, okay? Not the end date. The Passport Office did issue passports with 10 years and 9 months on some time ago, and lots of you might have one. This one did. And the Customs Officer is going to look at your start date. They want that to be in the past. Now, at the moment, and I will come back to this, you need to make, this isn't my passport, this is my son's passport. Thankfully, this is old one. I've just seen a picture of Ruben. You must have space for a visa stamp, because since we Brexited, they stamp your passport as you enter the Schengen zone, and they stamp it again when you leave. And of course, the 90-day rule we're going to come to in a minute. So we'll come back to that. The other thing to consider is taking a photo driving license. Is anyone going to Europe with a paper driving license? Yes. Why?
I don't want to pay 20 quid.
Well, you're a tight bugger, aren't you? It's £20. The customs officers are used to seeing these. It will make your life much easier, believe me, if you have one of these than a paper license, because they are very used to seeing these. The paper license could generate questions, but it's up to you. 20 quid, worth the risk, then go for it. The other one is the UK health card. Has everyone got one of these? These are free, yeah, loads of nods. Dead easy to apply for, aren't they? If you've got the European one, which is, I haven't, but there's a print off of one, it's blue. It's still valid, but it has an expiry date. So it's still valid until it expires, so you can still use that. But the NHS one is completely free. Now, have you heard of the entry-exit system? Hands up if you haven't. See, that is remarkable. Kat, no one has watched your video. Yeah. So Kat's just put a video. I watched it. It was almost perfectly correct. Since we Brexited, there's always been a plan to introduce two things, something called ETIAS and something called the EES. Now, both have been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. And at the moment, this is the bit in on my video that's incorrect, because when I recorded it, it was being introduced that summer or that spring. The entry-exit system is being introduced in November the 6th this year. And if you've not been into Europe in the last 3 years, or in fact the beginning, everyone's going to have to do it, you're going to have your passport scanned, your photo taken, and your fingerprints taken on a piece of glass. They're not going to get your fingers covered in black ink, but you're going to take digital fingerprints. And you'll have to have your fingerprints and photo taken once every 3 years. Now, it's anticipated this is going to take 1.25 minutes per person going through customs. Imagine a coach full of 45 people. That's an hour for one coach. I'm in my motorhome with my 4 kids. I know, we've got a bigger telly now, we're okay. But there's 6 of us in the motorhome, and we have to now park up and go into the terminal. The days of just getting the passports piled up and giving them to the customs officer, and they go, yeah, okay, carry on, and we're through, are gone. From November the 6th, we will have to go into the terminal and have our photos taken and our fingerprints taken, our passport scanned. Every 3 years you have to do that. So the next time you go, the next time you come back, you would just have to have your passport scanned. Now, there are talks about tablets being introduced that can be passed around the bus, around the inside, which is a really good idea. That will speed it up. We might be able to take a tablet into the motorhome to enable it to be a quicker process, but it's going to cause chaos. Now, people object as well to giving their fingerprints. As well as this, they want to know where you're staying. Have you got financial means whilst you're there and to get back, which doesn't mean you've got to get your bank statements out, but it's likely they're going to want to see a debit or credit card. So That's being introduced November the 6th. The next bit of this is what's called the ETIAS, which is the European Travel Information Authorization System. Now, you can find out more about this at etias.info. This is being introduced in the spring 2025. The date is not clear, March, April time, and it will cost us €7 as a visa waiver to go into the Schengen zone, and it's valid for 3 years. Everybody must have one. So if you're under 18 or over 70, it's free, but you must have one. Everybody must have one. €7 if you're in between those age brackets. As I say, it will be valid for 3 years. Have you been to the US and done an ESTA? And yeah, lots and lots. You're a well-travelled lot, aren't you? So this is the same idea. It's a visa waiver that will get you into the Schengen zone, as well as Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, and Romania. Okay, so be mindful. You're going to have to do this before you go. It will be a very easy system, we're told. Do it before you go, and it will be enable you to get into the Schengen zone. The other bit I would recommend as well is before you go is always check the Gov website, so foreign-travel-advice, so gov.uk/foreign-travel-advice, where there's instant and very live information on destinations where the government are advising we do and don't go. Right, you keeping up with me so far? Is anybody taking one of these with them? Not a teddy, a dog. Yeah, so again, I always refer, there's a dog in the room. I always refer to Cat's Talk on taking pets to Europe. It's really, really useful. We did a similar piece of content with Dr. James Greenwood, the BBC vet, and he unpacks the pet passport, or as it's now known, the animal health certificate. So if you're taking Reg, we have a little board called Reg. If you're taking them with you, you need to be organised. It can take up to 4 months to get your animal health certificate. So make sure you're organised with that and make sure you do your research. Right, let's get it out of the way. That's only a teddy, by the way. It's not actually my dog. 90 days. I'm not going to deep dive into this. I will happily unpack it with you. There is loads of content online. There are loads of Schengen travel day calculators online. We are now only allowed 90 days in every 180 in the Schengen zone. It's a pain, I know. We weren't told, but it's the reality of being a non-EU country. So after 90 days, we have to leave. And the important bit here is that you get your passport stamped or you get your passport digitally scanned when that happens, when that's introduced, because you need to evidence that you left. Now, what happens if you don't leave? Has anybody outstayed their 90 days? You're a good, well-behaved lot. Nobody, okay. There's usually somebody who's had a go. My understanding is it's a €100 fine. Does that matter? Would you stay longer for €100? I would. The risk is it's a red stamp in your passport. Now, when the EES is introduced, there is no vagary about a customs officer looking through and going, oh, I can't be bothered to find your visa, I'll just stamp it. It's absolutely black and white. The date and the time that you left and you entered the EU zone, or the other way around, is logged. And the risk is you will not be allowed back in. So a red visa stamp in your passport is a big red flag to a customs officer. This is all about security for the EU. They want to know who's in and who's out and where you are and when, or at least where your first night of travel is going to be. They're not going to track you for all your holiday, don't panic. There are places that you can head to escape the EU or the Schengen zone. Morocco, Turkey. Has anyone been to Turkey in Motorhome? Yeah, a few nods. Was it good? Have you seen Stephen and his son's escapades recently? Looked a bit scary to me. I've never done it, so I'm wondering whether to bother. Andorra in the Pyrenees, Monaco in France, or San Marino in Italy. The last few, though, won't stamp your passport because there isn't a customs to go through. So you wouldn't be able to evidence that you left the Schengen zone if you went there. And if your insurance company allows, you could head to North Africa, Tunisia, Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia, really? Or perhaps even further east. I don't think I'll be doing that. And remember, Croatia is now in the Schengen zone. Croatia used to be a place you could escape to, but since January last year, no more. Now, I would recommend as well you tell your insurance company that you're going to Europe. This is really important to make sure you are covered. We had an episode on the podcast recently with a lady called Michelle who rolled her Heimer MLT. I don't know if you've seen or listened to it or saw her story on Instagram. She videoed the whole thing and she wasn't insured. and she understood she wasn't insured because she was in Spain. Not the case. She wasn't insured because she was off-road in Spain. And the insurance company said, nope, you're not on a main road, we're not going to cover you, which opened a massive can of worms, which we started to unpack with insurance companies, her insurance company, and Caravan Guard as well, which is worth going to check out. The other thing to ask for, and I'm afraid I printed 6 off this morning, and they've all been taken from me by people who are going to Europe on Monday and they don't have access to a printer, is an accident form. Now, your insurance company should send you this. It's carbonated, so if you have an accident, you and the third party fill half out each, and you have a copy each. I printed a load because I know that people take them and they're all gone. I thought I had 2 more in here, and I don't. I'm sorry, so I can't show you one. But if you Google European accident form, it's kind of a blue and white form with black writing with 2 columns. You can download that, or your insurance company will give you one, and it's a self-carbonating one. Ask them for 2 if you're a really bad driver, but 1 is all you need. And European drivers have to carry them. They're a really, I think, useful thing to have. Right, okay, so I often get asked, Matt, do you go on the boat or do you go on the tunnel? Well, Jude loves it when we go on the boat because I get a break. And she likes the fact that I'm kind of getting enforced rest. I love going on the channel, or Le Shuttle, as it's now poshly named. They have a really good app. There's a picture of the app for your smartphone, and there's a recent ticket of mine to Norway when we drove across. And which route you take, it really does depend where you want to end up. Has anyone done the shuttle? Loads of you, I'm sure. It's so easy, isn't it? It's really easy. But yeah, it's really quick. It's about 35 minutes. It just goes dark, and then suddenly it goes light, and you're in France. You barely even notice. We play Bulldog with the kids in an empty train carriage whilst we're crossing, if you remember that game, and they love it because there are empty carriages every few for fire risk. So it's so easy to use. I recommend it. Any Tesco shoppers in the room? So Tesco Club Card points will help pay for your shuttle. I don't know how many Club Card points it is at the moment. It was 3 to 1, and then it reduced to 2 to 1. Does anyone know? 2 to 1. Ah, see, damn. So if you're a Tesco shopper, definitely convert your points. It takes about a week to get them converted into Eurotunnel points, but you can do that. Money. Really important you tell your bank that you're going to Europe. We were going into Croatia, and we got stopped, and we had the file. Is that my microphone making a noise? Is it all right? Is it this? Okay. If it gets annoying, Keith will wave at me, and I'll do something else. But we were going into Croatia, and we had our file of paperwork, and this guy with a gun, and I mean a gun, a proper gun, asked us to show him the paperwork. So we did, all smugly presented our little file, and he got a colleague over, and they were looking at the file, and they had the V5, they were looking at it, and they were looking at the van, looking at each other, looking at the van, and then they came over and asked us to get out, asked us to turn around, stand against the wall, facing the wall, and I'll be honest, we were really scared at this point, and we're like, why? What are you doing? Jude had brought the V5 for the horse box. Which brings me on to the V5. So really important you take the right document with you. The other issue, I mentioned the bank. The bank had decided that my card had been stolen and closed my account, or frozen my account, and they wanted paying. There was a fine for having the wrong paperwork, and I couldn't pay them. We managed to rustle some cash together, and I think it was 60 euros we had, and we gave them that, and they accepted it, and they let us on our way. It took 3 hours to get through that customs. And some years later, I'm still throwing Jude under the bus for taking the wrong V5, and now on stage. So she's never getting off lightly from that one. So tell your bank you're going abroad. I use Starling Bank. Has anybody got a Starling Bank account? There are, yeah, loads. It's so easy to use. There are no fees for using it in Europe. It's dead easy to top it up, and it works everywhere. So there's no charges, really good exchange rates. So definitely consider opening a Starling Bank account. And coins and notes, keep them. Because that scenario, if I'd had no money, I don't know what we would have done. Spent an hour on the phone to NatWest, I suppose, trying to get my card reinstated so I could pay them. But make sure you keep coins. You're going to need them for tolls, and you're going to need them on campsites, particularly stopping airs for fresh water and for emptying the toilet. I'm just going to stop there for a moment. Does anyone not know what an airs is? One person. 2 people, 3 people. Right, okay, I'll expand it then. So these are really, really affordable, sometimes cheap campsites. They're often owned by the council in a place with a beautiful view where you can park up. You're not allowed to put your table, chair and awning outside. You're just allowed to park, and they are really cheap, as I say, sometimes free, and it's a stopover, and we need more of them in the UK. If you're not in the group Campervan on Facebook, please consider joining it. It's called the Campaign for Real Heirs, and they are campaigning local councils. I'm quite passionate about this, to encourage them to wire up the benefit of having motorhomes visit their local town, city or village, and creating resources for us to park up, maybe somewhere to get water, maybe somewhere to dump our waste. So definitely worth, please, joining Campervan and see what they're up to. Okay, I mentioned having proof of where you're going to stay. It's definitely worth having your first night booked. I've never been asked by a customs officer for proof of where we're staying, but I'm told it's possible. Has anybody been asked for proof? No. Okay. I'm told, and we're advised that we should. Don't say you're staying on an air, or you're worse than that, you're going to wild camp. It's worth definitely booking a campsite, particularly early days of Brexit. This was true, but I know people have been stopped to prove where they're staying. Now, when it comes to booking a campsite, I can highly recommend to you the Adam Rogers guidebooks. These are amazing. Has anybody joined up to Axie? Yeah, it's worth every penny. You can get about 50% off a campsite off peak. You'll pay for your membership in 1 or 2 nights. We stayed on a campsite in Spain. It had a restaurant, in fact, 2 restaurants, a big pool, had a shopping mall. There's loads and loads to do, and I think it was €12 a night. It was incredible, and that was from the Axie book, so definitely worth signing up to that. It's like £15. And the guys from Axie will be at the NEC show if you're going there in October, or you can get the book on their website. Right, let's delve around in here. We're still working on you. Anybody wear these when they're driving? Yeah? Okay, in Portugal, you must have a spare pair. I've just been told, actually, in France, you have to have a spare pair. Is that true, Kat? She's not even listening. Come on, pay attention. A spare pair of glasses for driving have to be within reach from the driver's seat. In Portugal, and I was... Someone told me in France today. So if you wear them, have a spare pair. She's still talking, but I'm not listening. The other thing to note is that in France, dash cams are illegal. Any type of dash cam, don't do it. The police will take it out and throw it away. And any type of hands-free phone kit, you know those stupid little white earbuds that make you look like a teenager? My kids will have them. They are illegal to wear when you're driving. So we use them as hands-free devices. They're illegal in France. Right, okay, so that's you done. Let's go to the van. So I've mentioned the V5 already. Really important you take the original and the right one, not a copy like this or the wrong one. And the other thing you must take with you is your MOT certificate. So you must have a valid MOT for the entire time you're there. If it's going to run out, get it done before you go. You can have an MOT done at any point. Now, if you've got a motorhome that's less than 3 years old, because you're posh, you won't have an MOT, but you'll need one on the date 3 years from the date of first registration that's on your V5. So check that before you go. Did you also know you have to be road taxed in the UK to be legal driving in the EU? That's true. So make sure your road tax is valid as well. Is anyone going to hire a motorhome to go to Europe? No, fine. If you're hiring a car, you have to fill out one. Someone's nodding. So you have to, probably the hire company are not going to want to give you the V5 for the van you're hiring. So you have to fill out one of these from the RAC, and it will give you a form that enables to prove that you're entitled to have the vehicle in your care. I often get asked about green cards. Do you need one? No. It was deemed that the green card, which was a piece of green A4 paper, which had your insurance details on, is not going to be needed at all. I always get asked about breakdown cover, and interestingly, my breakdown card is not on this table. I have used for years the RAC Arrival. Now, it enables me to be covered whatever I'm driving, whether it's a motorbike, a car, or the motorhome. And with the Arrival cover, they will cover any size of motorhome. I once broke down in Lincoln in an 18-ton RV, a big American motorhome. The turbo failed and the rear axle had to be split. It was lifted on what's called a spec lift and dragged back to Bristol. It probably cost the RAC about £3 grand to do it. It took them about 8 visits in transit vans going, I can't tow that. I know. I keep telling you on the phone, but it's been brilliant for me. I did break down and they took 15 hours to turn up, but that's a whole nother story. But to get RAC Arrival, it's a white membership card, and you join the Camping and Caravanning Club, and then you get the code and you can join RAC Arrival. Many of the other breakdown companies, AA in particular, will not always cover your vehicle if it's over 7 meters long or over 3.5 tons. So check before you go. Red pennant, green flag will cover you, so check with your provider, that they are going to cover your moto. Make sure they know the weight and the length, so you know you're going to be covered. Critère, best as good as my French gets. This is the clean air zone stickers for France. Again, Kat has done a very good video on how to find out which Euro status her motorhome was. If she'd rung and asked me, I'd have told her. Just saying. But you have to apply for one of these before you go. There are websites advertising them for about 100 euros or more. They're a scam. They cost, I think, has anyone done one recently? Keith, you did £3, about €5, isn't it? And they arrive at your home in the UK within a week. They're really good, aren't they? So you have to go onto the Critère website, put the details of your van in, and it's Euro class, and then they will give you one of these stickers. Now, these stickers, and someone pointed this out to me the other day, they go in the windscreen in the right-hand corner, and they will last the life of the motorhome or the windscreen. Which is true, because I lost a windscreen, we had to have a new one, and my Critère went in the bin, so I have to get another one. But they are literally a few quid. The other thing I often get asked about is that, in fact, I was asked, do I need one of these the other day? This is the Angle Mort sticker. You only need to have one of these if your motorhome is over 3.5 tons, and then you have to put 3 of these on your vehicle. This is a magnetic one. You can get sticky ones as well, because obviously this isn't going to stick on the back of your motorhome or on the doors of your A-Class. They're like a badge of honour. I saw a little Eldis 115, a tiny, cute little motorhome covered in these. It's like we've been to Europe. Oh, totally unnecessary. You don't need it. If you're under 3.5 tons, you don't need them. These came from Amazon, and they were 10 quid for 3. They're really cheap. The other badge of honour I love is people hanging these on the backs of their driver and passenger chair, driving through Shepton Mallet. I've seen several motorhomes here, and they're on the back of the seat. It's like, we've been to France. Now, yeah, everybody that can walk has to have one of these. That's really important. So if you're carrying a baby in arms, they don't have to have a high-vis jacket. As soon as they start walking, they do. And they have to be in reach of the driver from inside the vehicle. So putting them in the back in the garage is no good. They have to be somewhere in the cab. They can be in a cupboard above the seat in the driver's door. They don't have to be on the back of your driver's seat, though. But if you want to show off that you've been to France, then, you know, fine. Right, let's stick with getting you ready. UK stickers. There's 2 types of UK sticker. I've got them both in here. There's one of them. I'll find the other in a minute. The GB sticker is gone. So since we became the United Kingdom, we include Northern Ireland. So we now have to don a UK sticker on the back of every vehicle we're towing and driving. So if you are a motorhome towing a trailer with a car on it, you've got to have 3. Has to be on each vehicle. Now, I think I got this wrong the other day. The big one, the big round one, is required in Spain and Italy. Can anyone? Thank you, Kat. See, I knew Kat would know. But the rest of them, you can put these on the number plate. You don't need to have the big round one. You can buy one for the front, but you have to have one on the back. They're a couple of quid. So make sure you overstick your GB sticker. Anyone taking a caravan to Europe? No, towing mirrors. Anyway, make sure you've got those. They're really strict with these. Don't buy that pair from us because they're broken. Spare bulbs. Now, does anyone know what headlight spare bulb they've got in their motorhome? Do we all know? Not a clue. So there are 3 types of headlight bulb, H1, H4 and H7. It's really important you buy the right one for your motorhome. We actually take a universal one which has all 3 in, because we're often towing a little car, either a smart car. We might tow a trailer with a motorbike on it, and this will cover all of those and the motorhome. So we keep these in the van. So it's really important before you go into a camping shop or Halfords or wherever, you make sure you know which headlight you've got in your motorhome. If you've got LEDs, then you don't need to worry about them. And that brings me on nicely onto these, the headlight beam deflectors. These need to be fitted. I was driving to Ghent in a little BMW Z4, and we didn't have these on, and we got stopped in the daylight and asked where were the headlight beam deflectors, UK number plate. And I looked and pointed at the sun and went, well, I don't need them. They wanted me to put them on. My advice is you fit them before you go. Don't try and fit them on the Eurotunnel, because I guarantee they'll park you 3 centimetres from the van in front of you and you won't be able to kneel down and fit them. But do you need them? Now, some motorhomes more recently have LED headlights, and they are what are called symmetrical. So the beam pattern does this, and it curves down left and right. If you've got an asymmetrical headlight, so it goes up on the left to light the hedgerow or the pavement, and then you drive on the right, you're going to blind oncoming cars. And that is what this sticker does, is it makes that beam go down. The way to find out if you need them is actually drive up to a garage door, stop ahead of time, or a wall at night, and look at your beam shape. You can see the beam shape, and if it does this on both sides, you have a symmetrical headlight. You don't need these. Good luck explaining to the French copper that that's what you've done, but that is the case. First aid kit. This is a requirement in Europe. I think it's a really good idea. We should all have them anyway. This is a caravan and motorhome first aid kit. I don't know why it's special for a caravan or motorhome. Probably so I can charge you $14.99 for it instead of $6.99. I don't know. But make sure you've got a first aid kit on board. The warning triangle. I'm not going to get it out because I'll never get it in. We're used to these, aren't we? Does anyone tell me, or can anyone tell me, how far behind your vehicle you should place a warning triangle?
45 metres.
How did you know that? Oh, darn it. Did you know otherwise? No, right, it's 45 metres. I said it yesterday in a different presentation, and it came up. So 45 metres is where you should put this behind your vehicle. Most people have no idea. I get guesses between 5 metres, and someone yesterday said 500 metres. So that's another postcode. But word of warning. So from next year, in Spain, that is no longer accepted, and you have to have one of these. It's called a V16 beacon. So at the moment, the warning triangle is accepted. For next year, they will not accept it. They want you to have one of these. I'm going to turn this on. It's going to flash. So does anyone have any objection to me turning it on? Is that okay? Close your eyes, look away. I'll leave it on for a second. I'll turn it on and it does this. That is what makes it a V16. It's that colour, flashing at that speed, at that pace, and can be seen from 1 kilometre away. I've turned it off. The second time you turn it on, it becomes a torch. And the reason that's useful is obviously it's a torch, but it's magnetic on the bottom. You could actually stick it under your bonnet and use it to fix the van. The other nice thing about it, it's going to flash again, bear with me, is when you attach it to the side of the car, there we are, it comes on automatically. So if you're in a car, you don't have to get out. You just put it on the roof and it turns on. There are loads of stories, don't comment, loads of stories of people being killed or injured putting out their warning triangle as they walk their 45 metres behind them and getting injured. It's absolutely not true, but anyway, sounds like it might be. So I think these are really, really good, essential everywhere. And I think if Spain are doing it, the likelihood is the rest of the EU are going to take copy suit. We've all got them in our team. My kids have got them in their car. We did an interview with Edmund King, who's the president of the AA, and we were talking motorhomes with him, recorded a couple of years ago in December. You want to go and hear it? And he told me that in lane 1 of a smart motorway, the cameras would not detect me if I broke down and stopped in my Z4. They just wouldn't see me. So that truck that's doing 56 mile an hour in lane 1, there would be no red X. It wouldn't know I was there. He only needs to glance at his sat-nav or his phone, and I'm in the way. Putting one of these behind me or on my roof or somewhere on the car could save my life. So if you're in an MGB or a Mini or something of that height, those lane detection cameras do not pick you up in lane 1. And this is nationally. On Panorama recently, the people that run the smart motorways also confirmed that the cameras hadn't even been working for 9 months. So they're not going to pick up anything. So I refuse to use lane 1 of a smart motorway in whatever I'm driving, and I stick in lane 2. And you know what? I'll take the fine if there's one. I am not driving in lane 1 anymore. So they're an essential. We've imported hundreds of them from Spain. We've got 105, I think, left here at that leisure shop here at the show. So if you want to buy one, go and get one there. Right, fire extinguishers. A really sensible addition everywhere. This is a J-tone one. Do you know how to service a fire extinguisher? It should be done every year. I paid someone recently 120 quid. You were in my talk yesterday. I paid someone recently 120 pounds to come and service the fire extinguishers at our motorhome service site. And he was doing this with all of them 3 times. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm servicing your fire extinguisher. I said, I just paid you 120 quid. I could have done that. I mean, okay, he put a fancy sticker on it and checked a couple of other things. That is how you service one of those. But I can recommend you consider one of these. And of course, Kat has been up to Fire Safety Stick and done a video, got paid an awful lot of money to do it. These are great. These run much longer than that other one. I'll show you. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to set it off. But they are dead easy to trigger. You hold the plastic handle, pull the end out, strike it, and stand back. And they'll run. This one runs for 50 seconds. There is a 100-second one. They are superb. And if you say Motorhome Matt to them, if they're at the show, they're not here this weekend actually, but they'll sell you them not 70 quid, but for 60 quid. So go and have a chat to them about that. They're a lot of money. I love the guy that said, well, I've had one of those fire extinguishers for 15 years. It's never let me down. True story. Right, okay, where's my chevron gone? Okay, you would have seen these. This is made by Fiamma. On the back of your bike rack, if you have a cover, there's a pocket. This is what it's for. If you have anything hanging out your back end on your motorhome, beyond a tow bar, so beyond the bumper, but a tow bar is okay, you have to have one of these. That is the rule. And the chevron has to point to the centre of the road you're travelling on. So I don't know anybody who's got back from the UK and done that, but maybe you have, but that you have to have one of these. And in Italy, it has to be an expensive metal one. I don't know why. I really genuinely don't know why we sell this. This is mine. I've had this for about 20 odd years. We sell these. These are pounds. The metal ones are about 20, 30 quid. But the Italians want to be posh and want you to have a metal one. The vignette. Anyone seen one of these? The real one's much smaller and they are impossible to get off your windscreen. People panic about buying one of these for Switzerland especially. It's for toll roads and panic about buying one before they go. They are for sale everywhere. They are for sale on every shop corner. They are for sale in every fuel station. Just get one when you're there. But it's really important you pay the toll when you are there. And you need to do one of those in Switzerland, Austria, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. And probably increasingly more places. Anyone going to Estonia? Oh well. Well, if you are and you're over 3.5 tons, you have to carry 2 of these. Every year there's a story of a handbrake failing and a motorhome rolling down a hill, causing havoc or death. If you're on levelling ramps, these are a very, very, very good idea. They're a few quid. Just shove them, one of them even, behind the wheel and the motorhome won't move. I'd definitely consider buying one of those. Right, let's get techie. Just before I do, breathalyzer kits. They were introduced by the French, they were ignored by the French, and they were abolished by the French. And no, you don't need one. In fact, you'd probably get in more trouble for having an expired, out-of-date breathalyzer kit in the van than you would not having one at all. So no, they're a waste of time. Don't even bother. Right, reverse polarity. We're going to talk. Does anyone not know what reverse polarity is? Easy, great, loads of you. So it's when live and neutral are around the wrong way. Now on the continent, their live and neutral wires are black. Here, they tend to be brown and blue. So electricians tend to know what they're doing. But on the continent, that's not always the case. So you'll get to a campsite, and this is a little European adapter. We did a trip around France, and 8 out of 10 campsites had one of these plugs. We were very rural, but it's worth taking one of these adapters. But often, they were, I think half of them, we had reverse polarity. So the live and neutral, the electrician just had 2 black wires, shoved them in the hole for the campsite, didn't care which was live, which was neutral. And the reason it's an issue is most motorhomes have a single pole trip. So it only trips out the live. If something in the motorhome shorts out, like let's say a kettle goes wrong, and it will trip out on the live. If the live is going down the neutral, because it's wired up the wrong way round, the trip won't detect it and will stay on. And even if the trip did detect it and tripped off, the live is still going down the neutral. So that kettle is still live and faulty, and you could get an electric shock from it. So my advice is buy one of these little things. It's a socket tester. It's worth saying, actually, if you've got Sargent Electrics. So you've got an Auto Trail or a Swift motorhome, you've probably got Sargent Electrics. It's that box that you have no idea what it does in the cupboard above the lounge. There's a red light that comes on when you have reverse polarity, and it will fix it for you. But there's no harm in buying one of these little testers, and it will tell you whether you've got reverse polarity. So this one lights up 2 lights when everything is correct. And there's an explanation on here as to how they work. They're like 10 quid. We are selling them here actually, but you can buy them in Screwfix, B&Q and so on. Now my advice is when you get to the campsite, plug your little adapter, which has a 3-pin adapter on the end, into the campsite and plug this into it. And then check the campsite. We're not even connecting the motorhome yet. Then get your hookup cable, extend it here, plug that into the campsite, and check your hookup cable. It will tell you if a neutral's come off, an earth's come off, there's a short in the cable. You don't know, someone might have tripped over it when you were last at the coffee shop or in the toilets or emptying the cassette. You don't know. This will tell you if it's working okay. Then hook the motorhome up and plug this in every socket in the van and check them all. When we do a hab check on a vehicle in our business, we check the sockets. We take them out and check the screws in the back. It is amazing how often they come loose. We're driving our house down the road and screws rattle loose. So having one of these permanently in the van, check every socket. Now, if you've got reverse polarity, I made a little adapter, which one of the couples that took my accident form yesterday also took my adapter. So I haven't got one to show you. But I simply made one, and I'll demonstrate like this, that looks like that. It's a male plug to a female socket and a tiny length of flex. You could actually buy one of these, something like this, and take that off. And in this scenario, put a female on the end. Does that make sense? And when you're wiring it up, wire the live and neutral around the wrong way. So put the live in the neutral and the neutral in the live, and therefore you've swapped it. Now, we're not allowed to sell them at that leisure shop, because they don't comply to UK electrical regs. Are there any electricians in the room? Yes. So are you NIC, So is it an illegal adapter?
I would say yes.
Illegal or non-compliant?
Non-compliant.
So it's not illegal, and we say if we label it as L plus N swapped, so it's very clear, it's obviously a rubbish hookup cable.
You're labeling it to identify it.
And that's okay. Right, I always check, because one day I'll be chastised and told don't do it. But that is how you could fix, if you need to fix it, because your motorhome electrics aren't going to fix it. I've got an Adria van. It's got Nord Electronica electrics in it that charges all the leisure batteries. It doesn't care about reverse polarity, and it doesn't show me, and it doesn't fix it. And that's the same across most European motorhomes, because they don't care, because most of the continent is reverse polarity. So this little adapter will enable you to swap the live and neutral around and fix the issue.
Spray it red and then you know.
Say again?
Spray it red and then you know.
Spray it red.
Spray it red or yellow or different colours. So
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think the key is that you explain what you've done, because you could have just taken the earth off. But putting on it live and neutral swapped or reversed would be, I think, a really sensible idea, and would seem to mean it's compliant. Refillable gas bottles are definitely worth buying if you're going to Europe, because Cala Gas is a British system. You can't buy Cala Gas on the continent. And if you are, does anyone here have refillable gas bottles? Yeah, it's so much easier there than here to get gas. But make sure you buy the adapter kits. This is one of them. Companies like Gaslow, there are 3 that you need for different countries. So depending which country you're going to, there's a different adapter that you need, or just buy all 3. You can buy them online, they're everywhere for sale. I think this one's 25 quid, and the set of 3 is typically 60, 70 pounds. And you can attach them to the pump in the fuel station, and then it will fit onto your gas system. The other thing that I always take, particularly from our rural French trip, is one of these. So this is a hose lock adapter with a wing nut on, because I found that loads of the taps didn't have a thread that I could screw my hose lock adapter onto. They were just a spout. And this is a thing you can screw onto the spout, and then I can put my hose onto the hose lock adapter there. Literally a couple of quid. In fact, our friend at Aladdin's Cave here is a great stand. I love it, with loads of pots with accessories and stuff you didn't know you even wanted in. He's got them on there. They're like £3. So definitely worth going and grabbing one of those. Tyre inflator. Now, it used to be the case in Italy that you had to have a spare wheel with a tyre on and the means of changing the wheel so you could continue your trip. And if you Google it, that's what Google says. Now, but I challenge that's incorrect, because most cars these days don't even have a spare wheel, do they? They just have one of these little tyre inflator kits, which are great if you have a little puncture, although I'd still be changing the tyre as soon as I could for safety. And your motorhome probably has one of these. It doesn't have a spare wheel. And I challenge that is not true, that you don't have to have means of changing the wheel and continuing your journey. But definitely make sure you've got one of these. If you have a blowout, this is going to be next to useless and not help you at all. Now, it's often talked, oh, there's my UK stick. I told you I'd find it. It's often talked about that on the continent, toilet chemical has to be green. Now, this is because many campsites are rural and they're on a septic tank. They're not on the main sewerage. And the septic tank works by rotting itself down into a yucky liquid, and the blue chemical would destroy the bacteria that is being effective in that tank. So I definitely make sure you consider a green product like Thetford's toilet chemical, or better still, something like this. Has anybody used Solbio? Not many of you. So this is essential oil. This is completely harmless to the environment. There aren't many innovations in our industry. This is about as close as it gets. I've actually drunk this on YouTube. I don't recommend you do. It is disgusting, but it's harmless to me. I'm nearly okay. But it's not harmful to our dogs. It's not harmful to any living being. So it's pro-bacterial. So what it does is it takes the bacteria in your poo and wee and accelerates the rot down process, a bit like a SOG toilet that doesn't use chemical, and it turns it into waste that's basically, you can pour it on your garden. What's that called? I can't think of the word. Compost, yeah. So it basically turns it into compost. Now, I wouldn't be pouring this on the rose bush of the roundabout on the A38 because someone's going to take a picture and say, look at this, a person emptying their toilet cassette. But the point is, you could, and it wouldn't harm the environment. It smells like essential oil. Someone came to me at the Newbury show and said, Matt, we bought some of this from you, and it's amazing, but the smell is disgusting. We can't cope with it, it's horrible. And I said, well, how much are you using? And they said 40 mil at least, which is the tiniest amount. That is all you need to use. And I'm not sure what they'd been eating, but it was obviously fairly intense. And I said, have you got any essential oil? And I said, just put a drop in the toilet cassette and let me know how you get on. They came back the next day and said, Matt, the smell's amazing. We're even leaving the bathroom door open because it just made the smell much stronger. It is incredible stuff. It's completely environmentally safe. It's vegan. I know people that use it to clean their worktops. We have some in a florist spray. We clean the toilet with it. We clean the kitchen worktop with it. It has no food grading, but it's completely harmless. We clean the waste tank with it. We had a motorhome recently that would not drain. I don't know what someone had put down it. It's probably loads of soap and food. Some of that with the tap closed for 24 hours with a bit of water. The next day, it all just flowed out. It's amazing stuff. And you only need 40 mil. There's 40 doses in there. It's comparable on price. So definitely consider an environmentally friendly toilet chemical. This is the empty box for my Avtex Garmin SatNav. Now, I'm often asked, what SatNav do you use? I love this, partly because it's a dedicated SatNav. It doesn't answer the phone or handle emails. It's just the SatNav. Leaves my phone to do all the other stuff. The battery in it lasts ages. I can take it out and swap it between vehicles. It has loads of campsites in it, and it's dedicated as a SatNav across Europe. It's easy to update, and I've had this one for years. They're now about 300 odd quid. And it's the Avtex Tourer 2. I'm sure there's a replacement out now, but it is designed for caravans and motorhomes, so you can even put the dimensions in and it will keep you on the straight and narrow, or the straight and wide. So definitely consider a European sat-nav. Another thing I would consider is a map. Now, I have an article coming out in Practical Motorhome next week, I think. I have a column every month. And the last thing I said we take with us on every trip is the library. And what I refer to is we went to the Outer Hebrides for 2.5 weeks, and Jude went to the library and got all the maps for Lewis, Harris and Skye, and we had all of these Ordnance Survey maps for walking and for driving. And I'll tell you what, sitting down of an evening and looking at a map, getting it out on the table and looking at where you are with a glass of wine and planning where you want to go and looking at the route between, you cannot do that with a sat-nav or a phone very easily. So taking an actual map, I think, is a game changer, and they're really cheap to buy. They're everywhere, and you can borrow them. So as I say, Jude went and got them for where we were going from the library. We took them back. Obviously, they would be reused by somebody else. A really good idea. Is anyone going to Europe in the winter? A few people. So make sure you do your research on snow chains. And from the 1st of November to the 31st of March, snow chains are compulsory in certain zones. If you don't have them, I can speak from experience, it's a €135 fine. I bought some. We had 16-inch wheels on our motorhome. I bought 15-inch snow chains on eBay second-hand cheap, and didn't try and fit them before we went. And didn't you do the same, Kat?
Yeah.
See?
Camper diameter, but not the right width.
Okay. Oh, I bought the wrong diameter. So I literally bled trying to fit these blessed things because they were the wrong ones. So if you want a cheap pair of 15-inch snow chains, I've now sold them, but you can't. So buy them before you go. I was asked earlier today, actually, we did a live podcast Q&A, and someone asked about snow chains or snow socks. My advice is, if you're not sure, if you're going to go into a zone that needs you to have them, buy them. They're not expensive, and you may be diverted and end up in a zone, and there is a fine. I got fined for having the wrong ones. Has anyone ever been stopped going to Europe for carrying meat, dairy, or fresh food? No one. Right, okay. My neighbour was. So they had in their fridge all their fresh food and milk and loads of vegetables, and they were stopped. So you are going to get stopped if you're unlucky. But the great news is you're not allowed to take dairy, but this is okay. My neighbour said I had a big bar of this under my feet, hiding under the cab carpet, and I was determined they were not taking my dairy milk. They can take all the food out of the fridge, but I'm keeping my chocolate. Dog food, if your dog is eating fresh meat, it is for sale everywhere on the continent. You're allowed to take 1 day of dog food. The only dairy that's an exception to this rule is breast milk or baby milk. So, and they'll want you to test it to make sure that you've got the right stuff.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Are you fined, or is it just confiscated?
It's confiscated. So Kathy and Dave's fridge was emptied. They took it all out and took it all away and bin it. They said they were going to bin it. There was loads of lager as well, which disappeared. That wasn't binned. So apps, there are some really good apps that you should download before you go, just to wrap up. The Axi card I've already mentioned. Park for Night is really, really useful in France. It's a French app, and there are thousands of places you can stop overnight. Search for sites, Camper Contact. There are loads more. Just Google it. Nowadays, we're blessed with tons of content online helping us go on these trips. Has anyone ever done France Passion? Yes. See, you know what it is. Once, yeah. So vineyards. What an amazing time. So you can go and camp in the vineyard, go and explore the vineyard, buy some produce, and stay for free. And the last thing I wanted to say is that Europe, the emergency number is 112. And just make sure it's not 999. And make sure, of course, that you pack your sense of adventure. So I hope that's been useful. If you've got questions, I am around on the That Leisure Shop stand 129. I'll be there the rest of the afternoon. We've got a few minutes after now once we wrap up. If you want to ask me questions, let's go outside so the next session can start. But thank you very much for listening. Thank you.